Welcome back. You're listening to The Way Home with Laura Smith. Here's Laura.
This past week, we had a monumental day. It was Women's International Day, and it was very touching on social media to see just so many beautiful stories, pictures, photographs of people with women who mean something in their lives, and of course, important women throughout the ages historically. But I often find it so important as well that we focus on the men who are emerging in this world now. And boy, oh boy, are we ever in need of good, strong men and good, strong women. And there are some people that have kind of devoted their lives to bringing out the best in people and creating wonderful spaces of thought and deepening conversation. And so my next guest is someone who actually we're talking to from Europe, but his work now is global. His name is Jacob Kishere, and he is a philosopher. He's an artist. He's a practitioner of transformative dialogue. Now, that's really the key here and what we're going to focus on today. But it's a practice in which people experience deep listening, meaning, insight, and healing. And his practice invites participants to slow down and tune in. That's both women and men. But he also has a wonderful group that he's initiated, which is called Men Emerging. And it's a wonderful way for men to come together in group. He also is he has a podcast, a wonderful podcast called Sense Space. And if you want to talk about getting into the deeper throes of consciousness and raising it for this planet during these transformational times, Jacob Kishere is someone that will help you drop into that really beautiful place inside yourself when you can find the most important and magical parts of yourself and really bring them to the forefront of every day. So without further ado, Jacob, thank you so much for joining us today on The Way Home.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's wonderful to be with you this evening.
Yes, thank you. Well, evening indeed for you, being in Bavaria, Germany. Here it's noon, so it's the afternoon, but it's so good. So I was really, I found it very refreshing when I found your website, jacobkishere.com. That's your name, Kishere, spelled Kishere, jacobkishere.com. And saw this really beautiful website about somebody who is a man, as I said, a young man who is really talking about changing the conversation, or maybe not changing it so much, but transforming it and deepening it, not only for himself, but for others. So let's talk about dialogos and dialogue transformation, which is something that you do, which you're a specialist in, and you have wonderful opportunities for people to participate in this and experience it.
Thank you so much, Laura. Yeah, so transformative dialogue is, would you like me to go into it now? Or?
Absolutely. Actually, what I said it backwards. I said dialogue transformation. It's transformative dialogue. Thank you. Talk about what is it and how are you offering this to people? So it's more than just having a deep one-on-one conversation with someone. Tell us about what happens when you have transformative dialogue. How is it different than just, say, a regular old conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So transformative dialogue is a practice, and it's a practice we could participate in like meditation, or we could practice a musical instrument. It's something that we grow our ability. We become more readily tuned in to participate in that the more that we do it. And so when I engage people in transformative dialogue, often what we do is we start out with a meditation, what we call dropping in. And it's about slowing down the acceleration, the momentum of day-to-day life, and dropping into a slightly different space of awareness and presence with another person. And another important aspect of this kind of dialogue is it's emergent, which means we don't exactly know where it's going to go. It's an intuitive process that we go on together. And what that allows is for us to get to places we wouldn't have been able to get before. We get somewhere new very often. We get to a new place. And the transformative quality of it is a shift in state. we feel different when we get to the end of one of these dialogues.
I see. So it's not like talk therapy per se. You're not there trying to help fix somebody or have them sort of express their problems. It's more of, like you said, a dialogue, and dialogos is part of the name, and people will find that throughout your website. So it's a sense of dialogue, but are you, as the person who is sort of leading, are you leading the conversation, or you're holding the space between two people so that do they just start talking about anything that comes to them, or are you guiding this?
Yeah, so often it is informed by our lives. We do want to bring in what's alive for us, what's going on for us. So often after we've meditated and dropped in, we'll do a little check-in, and we'll just bring what's going on for us. And from there, my role will be to sort of tune the conversation and to bring awareness, not just to what we're speaking about, but how we're speaking about it as well. And so it is distinct from therapy. It's not therapy. It's not coaching. I'm not here to diagnose anyone. I'm here for a peer-to-peer practice. You come because you want to have a meaningful conversation with somebody who is cultivating the capacity for a deeper quality of listening. And so I do this one-to-one. I have my practice. And another important element is that it's long form. So we always take 90 minutes for these dialogues, and that allows us to really develop and build and create something together, so that when we get to the end of it, we really feel that we've been on a journey and we come out in a different state of being.
Right. You said something that I think really stands out to me. And if there's anything that I think humankind in general needs more of, that is that intense listening to one another. And I mean that on so many different levels, whether it's between a couple, spouses with children and parents, politics, societies. I mean, in every way you look at life, it feels like what often tends to be missing and what creates the most misunderstanding in the world is the ability to listen, or the willingness to listen. So let's talk just a moment about what happens when this beautiful, intense, and intent of listening takes place in one of your dialogues.
Yeah, so the listening is a really multi-dimensional thing. Often we think of listening like, I'm just going to pay attention to who I'm speaking with. When I speak about listening, there's many layers. I begin with listening to ourselves, listening to our bodies, listening to our breath. And from that deeper connection with ourselves, then we're more equipped to then listen to the space and listen to the other person as well. And we can bring a kind of curiosity in that. So we're not just hearing what's being said, but we're hearing perhaps what's underneath it, what's beyond it. And this kind of curious energy, this wonder can actually move the conversation in a gentle way. It pulls it towards something new, something emerging out of it. And so ultimately, it's listening in dialogue, but it changes the way that you listen in life,
yes.
The way you listen to the world.
Yes. Well, it gives you, I guess, the experience of that, because I don't think we all generally do that, do we not? I mean, like you said, we do pay attention when people speak sometimes not. But do we often sit there and try to think about, well, what are we going to say next to whatever they're saying, or try to speak, there's just so much I think about how much I don't listen, and how much when I'm with people, how incredibly good it feels when you really feel that someone is actually listening to what you have to say. And then I guess taking it from that point as opposed to already having an answer that's right there at the ready. So you have both men and women that you're in one-on-one peer-to-peer dialogue, doing your transformative dialogue with. Do you find that there's a difference between men and women in this? Is it easier for women to engage in it, or do you find there to be a readiness for both men and women?
I've been struck by the range of ages as well of the people coming to this. Like I found myself practicing with women in their 50s and 60s and men 20s through 50s. So, no, I think it is a practice for everyone. And one of the unique qualities of spaces where this practice is happening is bringing together men and women in this really unique and dynamic way. I think for a lot of men, it can be an opening to the intuitive, to the sensing. In men's spaces, it provides a different way to show up for men than often sort of day-to-day conversation. And it's taking away that very practical, very goal-oriented mode that as men we often are inhabiting. And it's coming into more of a sensing, more of a kind of conversational jazz. So I think it offers something to both.
Yes, I've read your the wonderful sort of testimonials on your website about what people get from this, and they often talk about the lack of judgment that's involved. So that seems to be another aspect of this transformational dialogue that you do with people, one-on-one or in a group, that allows them to speak without feeling like they're going to be judged at any moment for what they've just said. I mean, don't we live in a society right now that just feels like it's just rife with people already having an opinion about everything that people are saying, and therefore not being able to listen, or if they do, they have to come back with their feeling about whether it's good, bad, or not. And instead of just allowing it to be what it is, I think that's a gift, too, that a lot of us don't get the opportunity to practice so much. What I think is so interesting about what you do and your podcast, too, you see it in your podcast when you do it one-on-one with these really incredible thinkers, philosophers, consciousness raisers and thinkers. I see that happen between the two of you. When you mentioned the word jazz, I almost thought of the word dance. It's incredible how the permission to be one's entire self in a beautiful place of non-judgment and of curiosity, like you said, and just all around peace. You start your transformational dialogue with a meditation, you said, each time. I just think that is just such a rare opportunity. But you find yourself getting a lot of people interested in this, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And it does seem to be something quite new in the culture right now as well, and something that's actually needed. I think it responds to this time in a particular way. So many of us are having a really hard time having conversations, but this practice is about equipping us with the skills, with the capacities to hold all of those conversations, all of those relationships a little more skillfully, a little more curiously. And as you speak to, I mean, the fever pitch is so high. And so part of what I offer is just to really relax the nervous system, let go of the need to get anywhere particularly fast, slow down, and just go where it wants to go. And it has been such an opportunity for me in my own personal journey of healing, of becoming, to be able to go to these places that I hadn't been before in myself. And often when we get to that place of not knowing, that place of curiosity, we can speak without knowing quite what we're going to say next. And it's like playing an instrument in that kind of jazz way. When we do that, we're becoming, we're creating, we're expressing parts of ourselves that have never been expressed before.
I love that. Finding one's voice, both figuratively, literally. It sounds beautiful. Now, I know you have, as I said, you do it one-on-one with people, so they can sign up for that. You also have this, tell us about the Men Emerging initiative. I think that sounds really interesting. And you've done it already before. It's not happening for the first time. You've already held these groups?
Yes, that's right. We just did the first initiative in fall through early spring. The next one is going to be coming up around May. And the Men Emerging, the notion behind it is to bring together a traditional men's circle with this transformative dialogue capacity. And when I've been doing that, something really unique has been happening. And men are sort of discovering a kind of fellowship together in this dialogue. And it's creating a space where the conflicts and tensions can be held in the right way so that actually can be an opening, a deepening. So it's not just, all about lovey-dovey, soft meditative feelings. We really do, we get into it, but we get into it in a way that provides a deepening of relationship. So it's an 8-session journey every fortnight. And the idea is that it kind of gives you an arc through a season of your life in which you're coming together with this group. And there's a kind of continuity of grounding and togetherness.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like there's great respect. I'm sorry, as I cut you off.
Yeah, please. Please.
There's great respect. It sounds like that kind of undergirds these moments and these groups, and on your one-on-one as well, a kind of respect that, again, I think is just so important and so necessary at this point in our civilization. It's more than just between two people. It's in our whole civilization, and this ability to speak respectfully, even if we respectfully agree to disagree with one another, to do it in a way that doesn't tear the other person down, that indeed involves curiosity, maybe wanting to learn more, that tell me more. I went to a workshop in San Diego many years ago, and one of the things they taught was how to listen to each other. And then one of the exercises was the tell me more. And so somebody tells you something and they share something, but then you say, well, tell me more about that. And it allows the other person to go deeper and to feel even more intently listened to. And I just think, again, this is something that the whole world, men and women, could really use right now. And I just found it so fascinating that you offer this. I'd never heard about it before. But Jacob Kishere, it's really, it sounds like you said, a bit of a departure from regular talk therapy or coaching, life coaching, both of which are wonderful and helpful to so many people. But this is something a bit new, and yet it sounds like it's safe for people. And so are you hosting these one-on-one and your groups on virtually? I mean, I know that you're in Bavaria, Germany, so you're doing this sort of on Zoom. Is that how it's happening?
Yes, that's right. I'm doing it all from Zoom in my Alpine village.
There you go. But do you still feel that you get the same deep connection and transformation that happens with the dialogue?
Very much, Laura. It's profoundly multidimensional what we can do with Zoom.
Wonderful. Are there any more interests? So you've got the is it men emerge? I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth with or saying things opposite. Which the emerging men thing is?
Yes, Men Emerging.
Men Emerging.
May.
I'm not listening very well, am I?
I think you're doing great. There's also Dialogos and Fellowship, which is another transformative dialogue journey that's going to be starting up at the end of April. And yeah, I just wanted to resonate with what you were saying about listening and how valuable this is for this time. I think our hearts are longing for deeper connection and deeper dialogue. And, it's not just great for our own journey, our own life transitions. It's kind of a civic responsibility now. It's a way of really stepping up, not at the ballot box, not at the tweet box, but in every conversation, in every context.
Yeah, one conversation at a time. Wow. I think it sounds absolutely beautiful. I encourage people to go to your website, Jacob Kishere, and Kishere once again is spelled Kishere, Kishere, jacobkishere.com, and find out about his transformational dialogue and the two groups, Men Emerging Initiative and also Dialogos and Fellowship. It's all there. It's fascinating. It's a very beautiful website, and no doubt you have really touched a lot of people. And when you talk about connection, I know that's what you're doing from wherever you are in the world, and people will feel a deeper sense of that. Jacob, thank you so much for joining us today on the way home. I am so happy to know that there are these wonderful gifts and opportunities waiting for people who want to go just a little bit deeper, or maybe even a lot. Thank you so much for being on the way home.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's been a pleasure.
Again, his website is jacobkishere.com. This is The Way Home. We'll be right back.